This from Emmanuel Acho, FS1 Speak, what he expects to see from Deshaun Watson on the field in 2024.
There's two ways that quarterbacks can succeed in the NFL. Either your team does well or you do well. I do not see a 4,900, 5,000 yard passing Deshaun, but his best career in Houston was 11-5. I do see 11-6 Deshaun in Cleveland. I do see the best version as it pertains to winning in Cleveland, because last year Deshaun Watson was 5-1 as a starter. He's 8-4 as a starter in his duration in Cleveland. So for as bad as he has been in comparison to old versions of Deshaun, and as bad as he has been depending on what statistics you want to pull from Deshaun, the Cleveland Browns were still winning. Now, he might have gone along for the ride as opposed to being the conductor for the ride, but when push comes to shove, they were still winning. So the best version of Deshaun is 11-5. I think Deshaun can help command and help lead the Browns to 11 wins. I think he can help command and lead them to 10 wins. He can help command and lead them to 12 wins, because last year before his departure, they were 5-1. Albeit he left some games, he entered some games, but they were still winning.
With that, let's welcome in Fred Greetham, senior analyst for the Orange and Brown Report. And Fred, I use that to set up. You did a look ahead at the quarterback position and kind of statistical projections on the Orange and Brown Report. You did an article. Take us through how you did that and where you arrived at it. So 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, another 400 yards rushing and 4 more touchdowns, which would be as good as anybody. I think the best, actually, in franchise history.
Yeah, you had to go right there, didn't you? You know, I like that statistic because I cover Brian Sipe, and it's hard to believe that the Browns have not had a quarterback throw for 30 touchdowns in their, since 1980, when Sipe did that, in the Red Right 88 year. So if you look at, especially with a 17-game schedule now, that's not really setting the world on fire. I think that's not even 2 touchdown passes a game, about 1.8, I think. And so just to be clever, be fun, that's why I put Watson there. To be honest, last year, I kind of expected him to have those type of numbers, and we know that he didn't play and he was injured. I just think, and I've been saying it, on your show and any other place I'm talking, is he just needs to stay on the field. If he plays 16, 17 games in the regular season, I don't think that he has to have eye-popping numbers, and I don't think anybody would say it's an eye-popping number to have less than 2 touchdown passes a game. And if he did that, he probably would end up with 30 or more touchdowns, and he would probably, throw for close to 4,000 yards, which are, basically franchise records. So I've said that Watson does not have to be elite or even top 12 for the Browns to get to the playoffs, kind of like what Emmanuel Acho said. But for them to go deep and to win the Super Bowl or go deep in the playoffs, he's going to have to play, near the top of the league, probably top 12, if not top 10. You look at the final 4 teams last year, Dave, all of them had their franchise quarterback on the field for the, in those games. And it's pretty obvious if you look at Joe Burrow and what happened to the Bengals, and and you can say it about Lamar Jackson the 2 years before that. He needs to be on the field, and he doesn't have to do it all himself. I think Joe Flacco, no disrespect to him, but he played very well, but he was kind of dropped into a great situation. And I think Watson has the playmakers. He doesn't have to do it himself. Sometimes I think he tries to do too much himself and forces things. And hopefully he learned in that comeback win over the Ravens when he was injured that he was just dinking and dunking and moving the chain. So that's where I had that based on. He's going to have to be on the field the whole year to put up those type of numbers. But I think it's very plausible.
Yeah, 2 things come to mind. He didn't have a lot around him when he threw for all those. I think the year he threw for the 4,800 yards, I think they had 4 wins. So he's used to being the guy that doesn't have a lot around him and has to do that. I think hopefully it clicked with him. The other thing is, think about how much the league has changed since 1980, and especially relative to throwing the football and how often you throw the football and how deep you throw the football. And the Browns' season career mark for highest passing was back in the 1980s. That just shows you how real the struggle to find an elite quarterback has been for this franchise.
Yeah, and it was the red, the cardiac kid era, and they got that name because they were always coming from behind, and you have to throw the ball. And the Browns, I think are going to be a little more of a pass first offense. I thought maybe they were going to do that last year, but I definitely think they are going to under Ken Dorsey, and with Nick Chubb coming along, not sure if he'll be ready to start the season. I just think that's what it's setting up. And I just think that, like you said, now the emphasis is on passing. Back then when Sipe played, you passed if you got behind. And I just think that it plays into the hand here. And I just think there's so much national negativity about Deshaun Watson. I just think under the radar, he really needs it, for himself to stay on the field, to play and put up decent numbers, and then I think that really sets the Browns up in good shape because their roster, what's funny, you look around, you see at this time of the year, because it's slow, everybody's putting out their projections, their list on the best rosters. And I haven't found any that didn't have the Browns outside the top 5. And yet they rank Watson every time in the quarterback things in the 20s, so that tells you, if you have any type of quarterback play, even middle of the road, I think, you're like he said, going to have 11 wins and make it to the playoffs. So, that's what I just think they have to keep their eye on. And you want him to get better and better, gain his confidence and his rhythm. So the second half of the season, playoffs, is when he's playing his best.